Um, we could call this bread. It's a perversion of the truth. It's important that I show my clumsiness and my wrongness. For instance, one of my last videos, I was talking about the impossibility. I was refuting real numbers. Well, I got it all wrong. Since then, I've refined it. Into more or less that equation. With that. I'll get to that at some other point, but, oh yeah, and this is today's drawing. Talking about Mary. Right. I'm broken, I'm fallen, and I'm in hell. Is everyone in heaven the same? Is every saint the same kind of saint? And is every damned one, like me, damned in the same way? We moles of hell. We spies of hell. We, Nietzsche said, beyond good and evil. We say, beneath the underground, beneath the grave. We say beneath the torments of hell, because those torments of hell have come. Our brothers, we, which is most of us, who have tormented hell. We, which is most of us, who have tormented hell. We, me, you, yet remain in hell, preserved as souls, as individuals, as spirits, tormenting, swirling, twirling. In this depiction of hell that we call life, heaven is here and hell is here. And the war we rage is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, angels and demons, daimons, loosely, daimonia, etc., etc. Et ulterior. Today's sweet prayer. By the way, these two stars symbolically represent disembodied hands. Right? We, me, I have embodied hands. But they're disembodied in a kind of way because my mind, my imagination, amagos, the things I hope and dream for, my hope for the future, for me, for you, for us, for we, my hope for the future is the hand that reaches where hands can't reach here today. But these hands here today can reach and do what can't otherwise be done. Working for the future. But Jesus's crucified, disembodied hands, right? We're made in the image of God. Well, the image of God is like, well, yes, the robotic form. Well, maybe, But also in the imagos, in the image, in the imagination, in the wondering, in the Aristotelian final cause of God, the omega point, in the mind, the imagination, that which God dreams to, that which God imagines, which isn't yet, which is a structuring of eternity, a structuring of forever, the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. Those who worship forever are trying to negate the Omega, which is impossible. Because when we're looking for the impetus and the pull of creation, not the creator, not the created, but the wholesale creation, which exists from the beginning to the end, from the Alpha to the Omega. The Alpha as the push wouldn't exist without the Omega as the pull. And the Omega as the pull wouldn't exist without the Alpha as the push. The end, where we're going, wouldn't exist without the Alpha in the beginning. So the disembodied hands, right? Because a star, and it's interesting now, if you look up at the stars in the sky, what do you get? When you look up with your own oculi, with your own oculi, what do you get when you look up at those stars in the sky? Well, you get some coptics, and you also get some kairos, and you also get some stars of David. But I guess I haven't looked enough to say for sure. But for the most part, when you look up at those stars at the sky, when you look up at those flashing lights, those street posts, those signposts, when you look up at pretty much any light you see, you're seeing Coptic crosses, and you're seeing stars of David, and you're seeing Cairo. Some Kairos are completely 90-degree and 45-degree angles. But some Coptic crosses tie in the 120-degree and the 60-degree, where you have a 90-degree cross, but then you have a 60, 60, 120, 120. But sometimes it's actually 45, 45, 45, 45, 45, 45. The innovation of this symbol is that these stars actually point up a little bit, which is a little bit like an arrow. So I have my Alpha and I have my Omega, but it's pointed up a little, but yet it's right here. So this is my Alpha, and because this side is pointed up a little, this is my Omega. And then I get my 120 degrees, which is the Eisensteinian Omega. Not Einstein. Not Einstein. Eisenstein! Pardon me for a moment. There was something I was going to get to that was important. Oh yeah, about yesterday. Or about my last post. I made a grave mistake, logically, in my previous post, talking about this. So, to return, I still need to get to Mary. I made that old video days back of the OT, of the OTO. I have to take that back. I have to erase it, but I'm going to leave it. I've been tortured in ways over the last several weeks, trying to figure out what to do with that, because as it so happens, I had an O and a big T and an O, which when I made the video I said was the other order, you know? But for a few days I was sitting there scratching my head about, that OTO looks familiar. Shit, that OTO looks familiar. Well, as it so happens, it's that whole something along the lines of Ordo, Theo, something, Orientus, the Aleister Crowley bag. My only exposure to Aleister Crowley, besides like the multiple videos that say this, that, whatever, is I have somewhere around here the like book 4 or the 4 book or the Law of 4 or the 4 something. Anyway, I read the first few pages and I was like, oh, he doesn't know any more than I did. So, these days, if you're into Aleister Crowley, he pretty much negates himself within the first few paragraphs of book 4, and you'd be much better off looking at Sadhguru. Yeah, Sadhguru from these days, because pretty much Aleister Crowley negates many systems, including his own, within the first few paragraphs of book 4. And these days, that would, now, before these days, it would lead you elsewhere, but these days that would lead you to Sadhguru. With the whole idea being, you don't need the patience or the stamina to exist every pose. You need the stamina to exist your pose as comfortably as you can, physically, in your existential discomfort, because you witness the world being uglier than it should be, and you see some kind of truth. You do. You see some kind of truth that should be expressed in the world. Yet, you also see why it is not yet time, because you see the way in which the world works, because you see the way in which the 51% control of God is pitted against the 49% collective leviathanic, thonic, sovereign, anti-sovereign will of the collected people's persons, Oh, oh, well, it succeeds and fails. It succeeds 49% of the way up to the 1% where it fails. Kind of like God these days in the middle of times, or at least 2,000 years back in the middle of times, which ain't that far. So far as times go, 2,000 years ago ain't that far back. And it succeeded. The truth succeeded 2,000 years ago, which is pretty much cosmologically. 2,000 years ago, cosmologically, is practically today. We are in the midst of this ethical, moral, unembroiling movement of truth. Anyway, what I failed to say last time, I messed it up. So let me say it here. Refuting real numbers. I know this is totally ridiculous. I know it's totally ridiculous. But I'm going to do it anyway because every so often, in the darkest swamp, the most beautiful and rare flower blooms. I would never, ever dare say that this is such a rare flower. But it might be. Because I'm destined for hell. And so are many of you. For those of you destined for heaven, we plunging to hell will fight for you from there. The war raging in the heavenly realms. The war in the heavenly realms of principalities as described by the King. Now, the heavenly realms. Where's the heaven of heavens? Well, it's certainly in the heavenly realms. The center of heavens. The heaven of heavens. The heavenly realms. It's right there in the book. In black and white. Red all over. The heavenly realm. The warring in heavenly realm. We war against principalities, thought forms, spirits, daimons, demons, movements in the etheric realms, in the plasmodial realms, in the dark energy, dark matter realms, in those things that are that we can't see yet, which intersplice us geometrically. What it is like this. talking about last time I screwed it up. But I did some work. To say it like it is. And it's really simple. This one's for the mathematicians. Need a better pencil. So, y equals negative x plus b evaluated such that concerning real numbers zero is less or equal to b, which is lesser than equal to 1. So I guess that's the equation I was trying to get to last time, which I totally fucked up. And what that's saying is that if you have an XY plane, right, and I just put the I there because there are two most famous Cartesian right angle planes, the XY and the XI. XI being the imaginary, XY they say being the, I don't know what would they call that. But the whole idea is that if you're talking about the XY quadrant, where you have positive y, negative y, positive x, negative x, positive x, positive y, negative y. If you put this equation, y equals negative x plus b, for all real numbers, or I'm sorry, y equals negative x plus b evaluated for all real numbers in the range, domain, group, set, in the place where 0 is less than or equal to b, which is less than or equal to 1. So what's that mean? Now if this is my positive x, positive y, then this point here is 1, 1, right? That should be all any mathematician really needs to know about this, what I'm talking about. So as far as real numbers go, like real numbers are a continuum. Real numbers are a theoretic continuum. The world does not exist in real numbers. The world exists in rational numbers. Incredible fractions. The world exists in incredible fractions. Incredible in both meanings of the world. Incredible like, wow, I don't get it. And like, credible all the way down, all the way in. crazy precise, so precise we can't find its possession, and incredible, like crazy, like I don't get it at all. Anyway, what I was trying to say with this equation, because it's evaluated from 0 to 1. So for instance, if this is 1, 1y, right? So this is 1y, this is 1 negative x, this is 1 negative 1y, like negative 1x, negative 1i, positive 1x, positive 1y, 1, 1, or 1i, depending if we're speaking complexly. But it's good to think about both, the complex and the, I don't even know. Some people might call it real, as if real and complex are different. People don't realize there's the real and the rational complex. And there's the real and the rational positivism, positivism, for lack of a better term. But anyway, Cartesianally, insofar as the two-dimensional Cartesian grid is concerned, if we put this equation, right, between 0 and 1, it's basically y equals negative x. You know, plus 1 to plus 0. So what we get is this line and this point. The interesting things about points are they are a special case of a line and a special case of a circle and a special case of a sphere. We'll leave that for another time. But basically, this length is 1. This length is 1. This length here is root 2 over 2. If real numbers were real, like if they were true, it would mean, wow, maybe real numbers are real, but maybe they're not real in a Cartesio-Euclidean sense, like where Euclideanism and now Euclideanism meets with Apollonianism. Apollonianism does not, well, for the most part, Apollonianism does not meet with Cartesianism. But it does meet in a very specific place, which is, among other things, Euclidean. That's not the only place where Euclideanism and Apollonianism meet, and that's not the only place where Euclideanism and Cartesianism meet. But what I'm saying is that if real numbers exist, then this space right here is 1y. This place right here is 1x. Every point on this real line corresponds to every point on this real x. Now, the way I drew it is wrong if we consider this point 1y and this point 1x, and we pretend that this positive quadrant is a square instead of a rectangle. Looks like a rectangle. Let's pretend it's a square. You know. In that case, we have a 1 by 1 square. This distance is root 2. And this is root 2 over 2. Now, if we have a pregnant, full, real number line, both here on the y and here on the x, and we're using this equation for every real number between 0 and 1, so between 0 and 1, between 0 and 1, using every single real number here, using every single, all of them, every infinite, the continuum, the absolute infinite continuum between 0 and 1. If we're using all of that, that's what this equation or this formula or this depiction or whatever the fuck you want to call it, like, that's what this proclaims. Now, if we're using that, like, every point on this 0 to 1 inclusive line corresponds to every point on this 0 to 1 inclusive line. They're all going like this. Boom, 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 boom. Line to line, line to line, line to line. Yet, every single line passes through this. Y equals x. This right here is just a fragment, a root 2 over 2 line fragment of the greater line y equals x. But anyway, every point between 0 and 1, every point between 0 and 1 here is corresponded to every point 0 and 1 here. It seems foolish, but it is a huge philosophical point. They all pass through this root 2 over 2 length. This is a length of 1, and it corresponds in every way through these infinite parallel lines to this length of 1. And every single one of those lines, including this pure root 2 line and this pure 0 line, a point is a special case of a line in this case, because there are other special cases of the point. But anyway, this pure real 1 and this pure real 1 in correspondence both pass through something less than 1. But these are pregnant, inclusive, interior infinities. Full, pregnant, continuum, saturated. But yet, every single one of those lines passes through here, which is root 2 over 2, which is 1, right, proportionally or thereabouts, like 1, 1, 2, 2 minus root 2 over 2. 1, 2, quantity, 2 minus root 2 over 2. Close quantity. Or more specifically, 1, 2, quantity, 2 minus root 2 quantity over 2 quantity. Planar geometry in its most you can't get more basic than this planar geometry. It's like Euclid for dummies. It's the dumbest of the dumb. Euclid would like wipe his nose with this shit and his butt, flush it down the toilet, you know, or outhouse, or, well, the Romans had toilets. I'm not sure what the Greeks had, but it doesn't get any simpler than this. Euclidio-Cartesianally. And it already disproves itself. Or rather, it explodes the plane. Planes aren't. Effectively and pragmatically at the scale we live in, planes are, I mean, they're very effective at a human scale. But at a God-sized scale, planes simply aren't. Except for as planes exist as organizational forces more so than like matter or like things we can describe. There are practical planes like my tabletop, but my tabletop is not a plane. It's a practical plane, and thank God for that. What I like about Guinness is it's a little bit like cheating on the sacrament, a little bit, because it's bread and wine, and it's kind of like bread and wine, or it's an aspect of bread, oat, and an aspect of wine, alcohol, in one. Convenient form, which is a pale excuse. But yeah, now I remember. Sorry, just trying to make it at least remotely visually pleasing. It's how I am sometimes. Fair enough. In an effort to be honest, I wouldn't say this is how I normally am, but it's how I am sometimes. Sometimes. It's how I am sometimes. Fair enough. People do, these days, people do reaction videos. Reaction videos. This song I've heard 100 million times. Not really. Heard this song a Wildbergian, Zedian amount of times. Not really. Infinitely. I've heard this song infinite times. Not really. A million, a billion, a trillion, a zillion. Not really. I don't know, but there's a number, and I don't know what that number is. Somewhere between 1,000 and 1,000,000. Which is actually a pretty small gap, exponentially, just saying. It's actually pretty good. That's a pretty good guess. I might play it once, I might play it twice, I don't know. There are many ways to react. And also, you know, I'm clumsy, I'm a human being, and mostly I fail. And the ugliness, the truth of my ugliness is not the truth of tomorrow I'm reaching to. The ugliness I portray is simply the truth. Showing oneself naked. Naked isn't necessarily nude. I believe that on my channel I've displayed enough. I've semi or pseudo rigorously, if not rigorously, on my channel I've displayed that I at least have the limited chops. I at least have the limited uh, knowledge of artifice, of making made things. I at least have that much knowledge to have protected myself from my ugliness. Hey! Right? I have to show the majority of my sin. I have other sin that I don't show. Mostly that's the minority of my past, which haunts me every fucking day. The minority sins of my past haunt me every day. The majority sins of my life, which I could hide easily, it's not a virtue, but I only recognize it as daring. And it's like, I don't have a family, right? I'm 45 years old. I don't have a wife. I don't have children that I know of. You know, and I hate to fucking say that. And that haunts me every day. Because every action matters deeply. I failed. Certainly in the actions of my past to a greater degree. In these days, in lesser degrees, yet just as deadly. I forfeit the gift I've been given. Though I'm still grateful that my forfeiture these days is less, if that makes sense. I don't even remember what I was getting to. What was I getting to? In an effort to be honest, I wouldn't say this is how I normally am, but it's how I am sometimes. Oh yeah, now I remember. Sorry, just trying to make it at least remotely visually pleasing for some sector of the audience. A reaction video. They're big these days. I'm gonna react to A New Level by Pantera. Gotta start from the beginning. Pretty close there.
I'm trying to